Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ruth Ashton, and I am an ordained United Methodist pastor, currently serving in a local congregation. And my particular interests in work would be the spiritual growth of individuals and communities, and also developing spiritual practices for living a full and meaningful life.
So before even meeting with IID volunteers, how was your perception of Turkey or Turks?
I actually did not have much background knowledge of Turkey, besides what I had learned academically through school and through seminary. It was much more based on Christian tradition too, so the history beyond that was really not something I was familiar with.
So right at the time that you received the invitation, did you have any doubts, any mixed feelings, or anybody around you had some reaction?
I remember my husband, Loy, who is a visiting professor at Millsaps College, calling me on the phone with this unbelievable news that he had been visited by a member of IID and had been extended this invitation. And of course that was wonderful for him. And just I was so pleased that he would get a chance to go to Turkey, never realizing that this would be an opportunity for me when we initially spoke. And when he said that there was a possibility that I might be able to go, particularly as a religious leader in my community, that almost seemed unbelievable to me too. It was sort of twice as good and twice the blessing. I would have been perfectly ecstatic to have him go and experience this. But to have myself invited as well was just an incredible, generous gesture on the part of IID. And I would say that it was certainly just nervous excitement and just, wondering what to pack, what to bring, how are we going to go all over the country and see all these things, and what would I be learning, trying to purchase guidebooks and read up on some history before going so that I could really get as much, absorb as much as I could from this experience. And the only thing I can say that across the board, from family members to friends, that the response that I received was incredibly positive, if not also a little bit envious that we were going. I'm not sure how much my congregation understood what was happening. The senior pastor, Rod Borders, was also invited in addition to his wife, Gloria. And so I know from the congregation's point of view, they suddenly had two pastors and their respective spouses going to Turkey. And our trying to explain that to them and what this was all about was definitely challenging for them. I think it was first difficult to wrap their minds around that this was something that they didn't have to pay for, and that we were receiving this incredible spiritual and educational experience from a group that they had never heard of. So there was a lot of education involved in preparing the congregation for our leaving, and then having them be ministered to and have someone minister with them while we were gone, and then of course to share the experience when we came back.
So when you were in Turkey, how did you find Turkish people? What was their outlook like?
I felt incredibly welcomed. I felt that the Turkish people I met were warm and kind and gentle, curious, intelligent people, artistic people, people who had a tremendous sense of humor as well. I think one of the very first impressions I had might have been one that maybe the volunteers of IID might not have realized at first, would have been an impression for an American woman. But traveling from I'm not exactly sure if it was from the airport in Istanbul, but I know we were traveling through Istanbul. And it was a day when, it must have been a family day, where there were so many people out on the lawns and in the parks. And it was clear that they had brought their food, They were cooking there. They had blankets. Everybody was sitting and just enjoying each other's company. And as a woman who is yearning for her own family, and also I grew up in a very close family, I thought what a beautiful testimony to the family love that undergirds Turkish society, and that I saw, older people intermingling with their children and their grandchildren, and both men and women being very involved in the care of children and being very openly affectionate with their children. So already when, I hadn't been in the country more than probably an hour or two, and I was struck by how expansive the love is for family, for their history, for their country, for people who are coming in to visit. And I think that is an impression that just grew and deepened as I continued to visit people there in Turkey. And just as probably has been mentioned in many interviews, that the generosity and the hospitality and the willingness to give but also to receive was a tremendous testimony to the large-heartedness and the open minds of the Turkish people.
So how was the host family? Like, did they want you to do your homes to have dinners with you?
Yes.
What was your feeling with them?
Yes, I enjoyed so much the person-to-person, face-to-face contact that it wasn't. I come from perhaps a background where I started off in a very academic environment, and then going from seminary to the local church, I realized as a pastor how important it is to be with the people that you're serving, how important it is to eat at their tables and meet their family members and to talk about things in daily life, the news, or talk about our faith as we grow together in faith. And I felt that there was something very similar that I had in visiting Turkey and visiting host families, is that I was moving from an academic, bookish knowledge to a more intimate, more personable, more authentic, deeply authentic experience with the Turkish people. I don't think I've ever experienced table fellowship as I experienced in the host families. Every single one we went to had a very lovingly prepared, elaborate meal, and we actually took time to eat and discuss together, or at some homes we listened to music. Some musicians had come in and played, and it was wonderful simply to be with each other. And coming from a society that's very busy, very fragmented at times, very focused on TV, or you're reading while you're eating and you're not really interacting with people, it was extremely meaningful to develop personal relationships with these folks who welcomed us into their homes or into the institutions that we visited, because those also, the schools, the hospital, those were also opened up to us as if this was to say, this is another important place to us. This is a place where we work. This is a place where we have dreams, and we want you to enter into that and be part of that.